Let me invite to the podium Ambassador Goran Aleksic from Belgrade, Madame Liza Gashi, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora from Pristina, and Ambassador Gasment Turdiu, the Secretary General of the Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs in Tirana. Please, lady ambassadors. Thank you very much for attending this last session of this very rich in content conference. After this session, we are expecting the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Agapetritis, to deliver the final keynote address. The topic of this discussion of 35 minutes is actually, it is not fair because we're discussing an issue in 35 minutes which is pending for 20 years. Almost. So I hope that within these next few minutes, we will give you an assessment of what the capitals in our neighborhood feel about the accession of the Western Balkans in the European Union. And I'm delighted that we have seriously three extremely important speakers. Ambassador Aleksic, that I know very well for many years. We were a little younger by then, Goran. We have Liza Gashi, we welcome her as well. And of course, Ambassador Gasmet Turdiu, the Secretary General of the Ministry. Sir, we thank you very much. Welcome to Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki, of course, it is not an unknown city to you. We have the pleasure and the honor to host here a number of your citizens, throughout the year. And of course, I hope that one day we shall reciprocate this and have Greeks to visit your countries as well. We do a number of conferences in Albania, a number of conferences in Serbia, etc. So let me start immediately by saying that European Union, I will make the general statement, believes that EU enlargement remains a key priority for the EU's political, economic, and security reasons. It is a key issue. Of course, this situation took a little momentum these last few months because of the crisis in Ukraine, and I hope this new momentum will be sustained. I have had the opportunity to listen to Madame von der Leyen in Bratislava when she made a big announcement about the growth plan. Also, we have had Commissioner Varhelyi in Brussels that we hosted a meeting together with Mr. Vrailas, the head of the Greek delegation, to listen again this important thing. And also, Mr. Gentiloni made certain announcements in Austria the other day. So before I would like to have your thoughts about what we can expect in the next 24 months or 1 year, and what kind of difficulties we may have in the implementation of the growth plan. Let me only read the 4 pillars because it is useful for the audience as well. The EU growth plan, which was announced 2 months ago, has 4 pillars. First, enhancing the economic integration with the European Union single market. This is the first pillar. The second is boosting economic integration within the Western Balkans through the common regional market. The third pillar is acceleration of the fundamental reforms and primarily attraction of the investments from abroad. And the fourth and important pillar is the increasing of financial assistance and support for the reforms. I understand the Commission will provide a sum of 6 billion euros in the next years to support this. So please let us have your assessment, how you think the situation will evolve in the next year, what kind of difficulties we may have in the implementation of the growth plan, and here we are. Ambassador Aleksic, would you like to start? Please.
So thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you very much. We know each other for many years. I have to tell you the first thing that the EU membership is the strategic has been and is the strategic orientation of the Republic of Serbia. We strongly believe that for us and for the whole region, this is the best possible option for our growth, standard, stabilization, peace and stability. On the other hand, I have to tell you there, leaving Athens more than 20 years ago, I had the pleasure to hear the results of the so-called Thessaloniki Summit and agenda, which opened the door for the region, for the membership in EU. And it is 20 years that has been passed, and we are here discussing the membership of my country and the countries from the region in the EU. So there is a big part behind us. We made big steps, a lot of reforms. We moved forward, but there is some fatigue, enlargement fatigue on both sides. In our country, in my country, I speak about Serbia, and in Brussels as well. For Serbia, the European Union is by far the most important partner, trade partner, donor. 2/3 of our export and trade is done with the EU. If we add to that 10% that it's done in the region, so it clearly shows the strategic orientation of not only politics but of the business where we want to go. I think that there is some that we could state that we are not very pleased with the dynamics. We would like to have a pace. We would like to have more concrete dates. And I think that it will help us, all of us, to move forward, to do even more progress and to move on with concrete steps. But from the EU, we expect a concrete, if I may be very direct, date. So the whole region is the missing piece of a puzzle in EU. We think that we are European people, we belong to Europe, we are part of Europe, and we belong to the European Union. Of course, you will say that there are other things that they are in front of us. We are not trying to somehow, how to put it, not to do our homework, but on the other hand, we would like to be sit on the table and have some concrete dates, not to be in the process called moving target. We did one thing, then you have to do another thing, and so it goes on. And we have to be sincere among us as friends that there is in the European Union, there is no animosity. I mean, there are different views on the enlargement. And sometimes it do not help. So it is 30 years of the Copenhagen criteria, it's 20 years from the Thessaloniki agenda, and still we are discussing some things that should have been far behind us. Well, this is just for the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Uh, I remember the words of an important politician here in the Western Balkans saying that the fact that we're not a member of the European Union does not mean that we're not Europeans. So absolutely, I totally agree with you. There is a fatigue that we need to discuss. But before we do that, I would like to give the floor to the Deputy Minister from Pristina. Madam.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for bringing us together to discuss about the EU future. I mean, what better place than in Thessaloniki, where we talk about a promise of 20 years ago. That to say, it's a bit depressing to begin by the fact to say that 20 years ago there was a promise of enlargement and we are still fast forward in a position where we haven't moved. Have we progressed as a region? Certainly there is progress in the region, but have we moved forward? The latter, not. I think to begin with, it's very crucial and important to understand the progress that we have made nationally and as a region. And I also think in that aspect it's very crucial to note that in order for us to be part of the European family, we have to align with Europe's common foreign policy. European security and foreign policy is a must for the region. And unfortunately, we have not have all the members of our region aligned fully. To be part of a family, that means that we have to also be in line with the values that the family provides forward. So I think in that aspect, there is room to be done. In the case of Kosovo, we made tremendous progress. I would say that we are the thriving democracy in the region. And I'm not saying that just from where I sit in terms of the position of power, but it's also the international credible index show the progress that we have made. And I think that's part of it. It's our job to build in on a democratization of the region. And if we were to look on the growth plan that President von der Leyen put forward, I think it's very important because it moves forward this economic convergence of the region, but it also backs the public statement that we want to see the region enlarged within European family. That to say, to go to the marks of previous panelists here about the future, it's true that we are within European family. In fact, we might not be members of European Union, but our people are already integrated labor within European Union. And if there is one trend that unites us in the region is the labor force that has been sort of driving towards the European market. And we heard earlier on the previous panel talk about, what it needs for the region in terms of conditions to be able to be a thriving region economically, but also what we need in terms of access to the market. As Kosovo, we welcome the new renewed commitment towards bringing Western Balkan closer, but we also do want to have some concrete results. I mean, as I said, it's 20 years post Thessaloniki. For us, it's 10 years post a commitment to visa-free liberalization, which we are looking forward to be able to enter into European Union visa-free. We've also, in July this year, adopted our national program for EU integration 2023-2027. But I cannot help but stress the reality in the region, because although we aspire to be part of the European Union and the region, one is alignment, and second is understanding the appetites of the countries in the region in terms of territorial looking into it. And particularly, I cannot move forward further talking about the future of the EU if we had an open aggression on September 24th by Republic of Serbia and Kosovo. That to say that if we talk about future European family, we also have to cope that future, that values into the reality in the region, and this needs to be addressed and needs to be put forward.
Madam Minister, let us look to the future and let's leave things which are on the past.
But we also need to be
absolutely, yes,
we need to be making sure that we reconcile with the past. But
before we continue, let me welcome the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Greece, and we thank you very much, Minister, that you are here with us. I know that you traveled from Brussels to be our last but very important keynote address. We thank you very much for this. So let me give the floor to Ambassador for his comments from Albania.
Well, first, I would like to thank you for inviting us to this conference. It's important that we at least continue talking about EU integration, EU perspective of the Western Balkans, of the 6 countries of the Western Balkans. Being among the last speakers of a two-day conference, and late, it's a challenge to to win and keep the attention of the audience, but I would like to make it being a bit provocative. And I will make three challenges. I will start with I will challenge three things. First of all, we always talk about the Thessaloniki Pledge and we say 20 years since. No, it started at the beginning of the 90s. For my country, it started in 1992 when we overthrew the dictatorship. The slogan was, we want Albania like the whole Europe. Second, I would like to challenge the word enlargement. It was mentioned even before. We belong to Europe. We are Europe. So it's not enlarging Europe. It's just unifying with the rest of Europe from which we were separated so unjustly. And third, I would like to challenge the title of this panel. Fulfilling the EU's promise, how soon? I would like to say, fulfilling the EU promise, how late? And after these three challenges, I would like to present my talking points in 5 blocks. First, an appreciation of what has happened, because I'm not looking negatively to the process, I'm looking positively to the process. The EU perspective for the region and for each of our countries, my country first and foremost, this perspective has been a motivation, has been a driving force for transformation, and it has yielded results. So there we are. Although after 30 years, it's about late. Our colleague from Serbia mentioned the fatigue. There is an enlargement fatigue, but even is the patience fatigue. And that has consequences in our countries. Yet the transformation is deep and across all the spectrum. I would like just to mention one, regional cooperation. It has been presented to us as a prerequisite, as a condition for progressing the EU integration, but actually is to our benefit. And it has yielded results. We have now, among other things, we have the Berlin process. We lately had the Berlin summit in Tirana, that the EU leaders renewed their pledge for the EU perspective of the whole region. And that is, of course, a very good thing. On the other hand, the EU has been recognizing the progress that we have made. I mean, it's good that they are critical to us. But if you see the progress reports, they reflect the progress. Sometimes faster, sometimes deeper, sometimes less, but still there is progress. Second, I would like to make some remarks about this process. The progress has been very slow, which was cause for what we mentioned, the enlargement, the patience fatigue. Sometimes it looked like going nowhere because it was a moving target. The EU was learning from the waves of enlargement, but then was kind of making, if I may say, it more difficult for us. So for us, it was, okay, we're doing this, but are we sure that nothing else will come up later on? What is even more important, the process became, of course, within a kind of a political frame, but it became deeply technical. I understand the technical details are very, very important, but it took an aggression, Russian aggression against Ukraine, to remind to everyone that the EU is not an economic project, it's a peace project. And this is how we can explain even the momentum that the enlargement or unification, if I can call it like this, has taken now. And due to this momentum, increased momentum, we have several important decisions that were taken, like Albania and North Macedonia opening accession negotiations. Bosnia and Herzegovina finally receiving a candidate status. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone here from Bosnia and Herzegovina. The visa-free regime has been decided for the citizens of Kosovo. And we welcome that because they were the only group of people in our region that needed a visa to travel to the Schengen area. Meanwhile, we see that there are some newcomers from the Eastern Partnership, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, who have now a more, let's say, They have a perspective now and see how it works. So what the future brings, my third point. At this very important moment, there is a debate in Europe about the future of the EU, about its institutions, the decision-making processes, the policies, and of course, even about the efficiency of the enlargement policies. And the EU enlargement is inevitably linked with the issue of the internal reform of the European Union. I just hope that the reform will make it more consistent, more predictable, the future integration, the future accession of our countries, the countries to the EU. I understand that this process is very closely linked with the capacity of the European Union to absorb the newcomers. We have seen so far, we have to see how these discussions will proceed and how far they will get, how strong the geopolitical momentum will remain, and how this will translate into realities. But sure thing, the neighborhood of the European Union seems that is in a very kind of challenging security and stability situation. It's not only Ukraine, we have the Middle East now. And we can remind this old wisdom that unity makes strength. Some thoughts about what I would have liked to see. Everybody, each of us thinks of a better world. So I'm trying to say how do I imagine this process, how I see it being improved. I would like to see the realization coming to life in reality, intermediate possibility for a gradual integration formula, which will offer the possibility of identifying common milestones, tangible objectives, better preparation for the membership for our countries. And that's exactly the philosophy behind the growth plan. But now we have to start implementing it. I would like to see an approach that is moving us towards converging with the EU through developing infrastructure, interconnecting countries and people, physical gateways for our countries towards the EU, facilitating FDIs inflows towards the region, creating employment, values, putting our countries on the line of the European value chain. And the new growth plan for the Western Balkans, let me highlight it again, is the right step in the right direction. But I was talking until now what the EU should do. I would like to end up by saying what we should do, because it takes two to tango, of course. I'm not blaming I don't put the responsibility of this much delayed process to the EU. It's us, first of all. We have lost so many trains. So first, we have to read very carefully to the progress report and see what are the homeworks that we should do, and do it very carefully. And about my country, and this I think includes entails everything that our countries should do to respond to the readiness of the EU to get closer with us. So I'm stopping with this. Yes. If you allow me my final remark. We know that next year will be electoral year for so many countries in Europe. And we understand that enlargement is not a topic that helps the politicians get elected. I hope that these elections will have minimal influence on the progress of the enlargement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Actually, thank you very much for bringing the issue of what the countries should have done or they should do about all these years in order to, be able to join the European Union. Enlargement is a strategic issue which unites all our countries around here. I don't want to go back to issues but if Mr. Alexis would like to say only one word and have an equal time about the incidents of September, I think, Madam Minister, we have to give him the floor for this.
Well, thank you. I thought that we will discuss future here, European integrations and so on. And every fora in the last 2 years where I participated is used for this accusation, non-fact-based statements and so on. So let me just two things I want to underline. The first thing, September, the tragic events in September are the direct consequence of the repression, what was done in the last years towards the Serbians in the north of Kosovo. This is the Belgrade clearly stated. It is not involved, and this is just the desperation of the people, of a group of people, where 1/3 was cleansed, 1/3 of this ethnic group from the other group. And we have 200,000 internally displaced persons living in Serbia without any chance to go back to their property, to their homes. The second thing, and I will finish, what kind of standards we are talking about if we don't have a security of work, life, education, free religion, free speech, and so on and so on. So let's be constructive and let's look forward. And the last thing regarding the alignment. We will not close one door before the other door is open. Nobody with the common sense will do it. And so we said it many times. We will be aligned when we will have the date. So we have our partners in EU. EU is by far the Serbian most important partner, and the region as well. But we have other partners with whom we are now. And then, if you want to go further, there are countries in EU which, with these partners, which you were referring, we have probably 6 billion trade, and they have 300 billion trade, and nobody is saying a word because, I mean, this is life, what we're living. But let's be constructive, let's be trustworthy, let's look in our yards, what we have, as the distinguished colleague said, what we have to do on our ground, in our yard, how we respect these European standards, how we respect the security that we have here in Thessaloniki, Greece, and everywhere in Europe. Could it be applied in Pristina or north of Kosovo? And let's look at it in a way that it's credible. That's it.
Ambassador, tell me, how serious is the fatigue of the European Union in Serbia, especially the younger people?
The majority,
because we read that the statistics are not so good.
But the majority of people for decades are oriented towards EU. We are, as we stated here, we are part of EU. We have many people. We were a different socialist country, so we were present in EU from the 60s. We had people working there, we had workforce, we had engineers, we belonged there. So the young people are looking at Europe, but as I said, we need some concrete dates and some concrete steps.
Madam Minister, would you like to say a few words also about immigration, because it is a subject that we discussed before. Can you comment a little bit on this? Yes.
I think it's very important that we are realistic about the reality in the region. We cannot portray a different picture than what it is. Alignment with Europe's foreign and security policy is a must to move forward in the European family, first and foremost. Second is keeping up with the reforms needed. And I think it's important to go back to the growth plan and to go back to this bold investment that the European Union is making in our region in a quest to find members of the Western Balkan families equally integrated within values system. I think what's important for our continent as a whole is this unity as a family and understanding that the security lines within our regions are crucial. Here to say, I do make note that we are integrated within the European Union based on the people that we have basically passed forward. I mean, our highest talent in the region is moving because it wants a better, prosperous future. And that to say that migration is a right and a choice. But our job as government in the region is to make sure that we build an ecosystem where young generation can thrive. And here is, I think, we move forward. We have already the Berlin process agreements. We have governments in the region that haven't been able to fully ratify all these agreements. We have homeworks in the region in terms of cooperation within instruments of Berlin process, where we show equal treatment within the region. I think what's crucial within the growth plan for us as Republic of Kosovo is also to look into the preconditions set. I think part of the reason there is a lot of fatigue in the region when it comes to the European enlargement is because there's been multiple promises and very little delivery. And so that to say, it's easy for the folks in the region to be relooking their future and to be sitting on one chair at the same time with multiple partners, despite different interests, because there has to be a clarity on delivery. I mean, I noted down, and for us, January 1st is the first time to see that accession part when it comes to traveling visa-free. I mean, in a 21st century Europe, you cannot travel visa-free. That just does not allow much for integration. And I think in this aspect with the growth plan, we really welcome growth plan for two elements of it. It's like, aside from contribution to the budget component, I think it's important that it brings us closer to the single market. I mean, looking at the common regional market as a base and then moving forward. But again, we cannot be oblivious to the reality. We have to make sure that we take serious what has happened in the region and that sanctions or measures are being taken. It's very important that, I mean, if there's one thing in our region that needs to be understood well and needs to be thought both ends, it's the future. I come from a generation of young leaders in the region, and I want to see a future for the region. But I also want to reconcile with the past, because I believe that we cannot move forward without reconciling in the past and without not making efforts from both ends to be able to deliver. Because this region deserves better. And the people in this region, the only reason they leave forward to Europe is because not often they find the ecosystem at home. So it's our job to be able to deliver at home, but it's also our job to make sure that we stand true to the reality.
A very quick question, which is on the business level, both of you perhaps. I understand that there are some issues regarding trucks moving from Greece up north. Is there a way that we can resolve that issue or make it better or whatever? Do you know the subject or not? This is an issue that was brought to me, before. If you don't,
with the Open Balkans, what we achieved, that we had lines of trucks which were waiting for the entrance for 14 hours. With the Open Balkans, this effort, we shortened the time to 45 minutes. This is one of the examples how region could function well.
I think looking into the regional common market and upholding the values within that system will be fine.
Mr. Secretary General, you are a wise man, so give us your thoughts. How you see a light in this tunnel? What do you think is going to happen in the next?
Well, there is light at the end of this tunnel, but I hope the light will not turn off. We expect 6th of December the Council to open way for opening the fundamentals, the chapter of fundamentals for Albania. I think this is well deserved from my country. Well, last week on Thursday we had in Brussels a session of the screening process, discussing about chapter 31, foreign policy. I was there, and I heard the highest appreciation possible about the foreign policy of Albania. I may say, being the one who chaired the task force for Albania's membership to the Security Council, we're preparing for that, and all the meetings we had, both in Brussels and with the EU member states, that we had consultations, meaning those that are in the Security Council, but even others, very important players. Our pledge was that we would perform in the Security Council as if we were under the obligation of Article 35 of Lisbon Treaty, and we did so. We delivered. We did so not because we are asked to. We did so because it's a matter of values. We align ourselves